everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lanese, and I blend spirituality with motivation so that you can get the best benefit out of it. Today's video is on the theories of astrology and the scientific principles that you can go back to that actually nobody talks about and will teach you so much about astrology. And like when somebody combats you and like astrology isn't real, astrology has no scientific backing, you can come back to this, you can store this information in your back pocket and tell people this. So let's get started. So before I start, let me just say, if you know me at all in my own life or on Instagram or on TikTok, you know that I love astrology, and I was hesitant to make astrology videos on YouTube. And the reason why is because I made them on TikTok and I kind of pigeonholed myself on TikTok, where the only thing that goes viral on TikTok for me now is astrology videos. And I know why. I've studied astrology for so long. I can read birth charts, I can read natal charts, I've read books on it. I haven't just looked stuff up. Like, I've been all in about astrology. But I also was scared of the backlash on YouTube, but this was way before I even tried to do it on TikTok. And after doing it on TikTok, like, I really don't care about the hate comments. So anyway, that being said, let's move into the theory on astrology. Astrology is based on a theory called harmony of spheres, or musical universalis, invented by Pythagoras. Yes, that's the same Pythagoras who invented the Pythagorean theorem, except Pythagoras, if you look into his life, wasn't exactly the best person. He had people who believed in him and he was running like this cult, so you can do your own research on that, but he is credible for the Pythagorean theorem, and then he also did a lot of stuff with math and numbers, and I'm pretty sure he did some stuff on the Platonic solids, if you know anything about those. So the harmony of spheres is a theory that as the planets are moving through the solar system, they are giving off a vibration, which we know is true. The planets are giving off a vibration as they move through the solar system. You can actually look up what the planets sound like, because as the planets move through the universe and give off a vibration, they're giving off a hum. They're making a noise. It's like meow, 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 something like that. You can look it up because we can't detect it to our ears, but the scientists have figured out what it sounds like. So the harmony of spheres, or musical universalis, states that anything that moves gives off a vibration, and that vibration is 1, connected to a musical note, and 2, connected to an emotion. Music and emotion are heavily connected. So when you are born on Earth, right? This is Earth. When you're born on Earth, and let's back up actually, before you're even born on Earth, you're in your mother's womb, right? You're literally floating in her womb, and you are more an extension of her because you're floating in her womb. So she is being tethered down by gravity. So you're floating in her womb, waiting to be born, and she's just going about life and going about the world. So the harmony of spheres and the musical universalis and the principle of astrology states that when you are born, that moment that you were born on Earth matters so much, because that's the moment you were stitched and tethered into this space-time reality. That's the moment that you became your own body mass as something that wasn't just floating in her womb, kind of like an astronaut floats in space. You then tether into the space-time reality more so as your own entity. And the second you are born, you're stitched into this reality, and all of the planet's gravitational and scientific forces now recognize you as your own body mass, and then you get stitched into this space-time reality. So that is basically why that moment you were born is so important, because if you think about it like flowers, this is how I like to think about it, because I'm a gardener. I love to garden. Spring is my favorite season, and in spring, daffodils bloom, tulips bloom, crocus bloom, hyacinths bloom, because they are spring flowers. And in the summer, peonies bloom, lilacs bloom. In the fall, mums bloom, sunflowers bloom, zinnias bloom. So the way that I think about it is, the moment that you were stitched in the space-time reality, the planets that are closest to you have an influence, because your birth chart is a screenshot of that moment that you were born. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about gardening and astrology signs being connected to you, because it's like, well, daffodils don't bloom in the fall. They just won't bloom in the fall. So it's almost like when you are planted, when you are born and planted into this world, you are then a flower that is blooming during that season. Like I'm a Virgo, right? And my rising sign is Pisces though, because I don't know your comprehension of astrology, but it gets a lot deeper than just your sun sign. When I learned that, I was like mind blown. But if you're watching this video, you probably already know that because you're kind of searching deeper into the theories of astrology. But basically, that's how I think about the zodiac signs having an influence on you. It's like you're basically like a flower of that season because of the planets and where they were located. And so when those planets orbit and move away and move closer to you, they're influencing you almost like puppet strings. And the way that I think about astrology is it is not an excuse for you to be a certain way. It's not an excuse for you to be like, oh, well, you know, I'm just a horrible person because I'm a Gemini or something like that. No offense to Geminis at all. I'm just using that as an example. It's not an excuse for you to say that and then that's it. Astrology is a tool for self-awareness. Once you know what your zodiac sign is more likely to do, you can then change and step out of it. You can subvert expectation. You can understand, oh wow, I'm a perfectionist because I'm a Virgo, but I can let go of that perfectionist energy and I can just be myself and I can tap into other elements in my chart. So back to the theory on astrology, musical Universalis is the main principle, and all of these philosophers of the time, because astrology was considered a science. I could tell you literally everything about it. Like it was considered a science for a long time. It changed because a guy by the name of William Lilly wrote a book called Christian Astrology, and he tied Christianity to astrology, and the church about lost it. And this was back in like, I want to say the 15 or 1600s. I will put it in the description box below so that you can have the real data on it. But once he wrote this book, everyone lost their mind because astronomy and astrology were a connected science. And astrology goes all the way back to crops. Basically, the whole reason we started astrology was because when can we plant things? When can we plant certain crops? When can we understand the weather and how the planets and their movement affects us? Because the earth moves in 4 points away from the sun. There's these 4 points away from the sun. And they're all connected to the cardinal signs. They're like major points that the earth moves away from the sun. And when the earth is closest to the sun, it's Cancer. It's in Cancer season. Depending on where you are on the globe though, because I'm from America, like I feel like the global position matters, but there's these 4 points. So all of this has to do with astronomy. And so basically once astrology was kicked out of a science, then it was blasphemized and you weren't even allowed to practice astrology. You couldn't even say astrology. You get tossed in jail. And the reason why astrology has a heavy psychology feel to it is because there was a man by the name Alan Leo, and I'm getting all of this information from this book, which is my favorite astrology book. I will link it down below if you want to buy it and read it. It's amazing. But Alan Leo was basically blending psychology with astrology, and he wasn't telling people because astrology was forbidden. Then when he got found out, he got put on trial. And they were like, you can't do this. This is fortune telling. This is blasphemy. And he was like, no, 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 no. I'm not doing it as fortune telling. I'm doing it as psychology. I'm not predicting people's futures. I'm helping them navigate how they behave so that I can help them. And people were like, mind blown. And they muled that over. He still went to jail. So that's sad for his story. But all of these things are the reason why astrology has become this like clumped energy feeling. Like it feels kind of witchy, it feels kind of blasphemized, it feels mystical. Like, but if you think about it, what astrology really is, it's like, how is the weather affecting you? The difference between astrology and astronomy is astrology is the study of how the planets affect life on Earth, not just humans, plants, and animals. Astronomy is how do the planets affect other body masses, other planets, other celestial bodies. It's taking the living force out of it. And I don't think we're really going to fully know enough about astrology until we inhabit another planet and somebody is born on that planet. Only then will we be able to do a case study, because I love astrology, but I do see flaws in it. I see room for improvement. I see that we don't know everything about it. It's just like anything else in science. Even though astrology is not considered a science, it's considered like a pseudoscience, or it's considered like a mythical science, or I can't remember the exact definition, but it's some form of like not necessarily a real thing. And I think the reason why is because we don't have enough research on it, because people who love astrology don't have that astronomy background. So we can't really do all of the data and math. There was a study, and it was by a man named Michel Glauquelin, and he did a study on the Mars effect. If you Google the Mars effect and you get the Wikipedia page, what you're going to see is that it's going to say that it was disproven. But when you do more research, when you dig very deep into this Mars effect thing, you're going to realize that it wasn't necessarily disproven. He died before the study could continue. But what he found was there were prominent aspects in sports players' birth charts that made them athletic based on their Mars sign. And Mars gives off the planetary vibration of dominance. Mars is connected to dominance. And so as it orbits through the solar system, its vibe has to do with authority and things of that nature. So your Mars sign is your sign connected to dominance and to authority and to sports and aggression and things of that nature. So he got really far, and people in the sports community were like, oh my goodness, what? And then his wife tried to continue the study, and this was like in the 50s. His wife tried to continue the study, but this is the 50s. And so you know how that goes. I don't have to tell you that she was looked down upon for just being a woman. And then as this progressed, she tried to get astronomers, actual credible scientists, because if you're not included in a science, you have to get people of a scientific background to try to help you bring something back into a science. But because astronomy was so heavily influenced to be not a science, because astronomers don't even realize it, but they're literally brainwashed by religion. Yay, how exciting. We couldn't have predicted that one. They still don't realize it, because I've actually talked to an astronomer. I kind of had a thing with him, but anyway, so that's over. But anyway, not because of the astrology thing, but yeah, so I talked to one, and we talked about astronomy and astrology, and he had so much heavy pushback, and I think that actually kind of was why I liked him. But anyway, so back to the story. I'm getting too deep into this. I swear, I overshare so much, but I'm sure you're here for it because that's juicy. But anyways, so once I got to talking to him, he actually did kind of see my point and didn't really realize that he was basically being influenced by religion, which is crazy because not a lot of astronomers are like super religious or anything, but that thread is still there. And so basically, long story short, with the Mars effect, which I'll link that somehow, somewhere, I'll try to find like a really credible article rather than just the Wikipedia page. But because I want to make this video short, I want to wrap this up and talk about the Mars effect and how, like, basically when his wife tried to get people to redo the study, astronomers didn't take it seriously. They're like, no, this is not true. And so what they did was they didn't take it seriously. And when they redid the study, they didn't plug in birth times. And if you know anything about astrology, if you know anything deep about astrology, like, the birth time is like the whole freaking point. Like, we need to know where, longitudinally and time. Like, when were you born? We need to know that. Like, we need to know exactly where you were on this earth and what time you were born, because the planets are moving and the rising sign is dependent upon the minute of your birth. So if you have that wrong, then your whole freaking chart is wrong. Your houses are wrong. So anyway, that is it for this video. Basically, if you want to tell somebody about astrology and they're like, oh, it's not a science, well, point them to the direction of Harmony of Spheres or Musical Universalis, which I will tag down below for you guys as well. It's a theory, but we know now that the planets are giving off a vibration situation. And when you look outward, when you look at the whole universe and galaxy, you will see like everything is gears and cogs and stuff. So it really makes a lot of sense to me that the planets do have an influence on you, because everything has an influence on you. We live in this ecosystem. So that is it for this video. If you liked this video, if you gained any value from it, please give it a like so more people can know about this. If you like content like this, subscribe, comment down below if you want more, because I am kind of reluctant to make astrology videos, but if you guys are like, please make more, I totally will. So thank you for watching this video all the way until the end, and I will see you in the next video.